Call this meeting to order, the regular meeting of the City Commission of Rio Grande City, Texas, Wednesday, September the 28th, approximately 6:06 p.m. Here at Commission Chambers, City Hall, 5332 East US Highway 83, Suite A, Rio Grande City, Texas. This time we'll have the invocation by Commissioner Garza, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Ramirez.
Bow our head. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to get together. We ask that you guide us in the decisions that we're about to make. We thank you for all the wonderful blessings that you've bestowed on us and on this city. We ask that you continue blessing us. Thank you for the rain that you have sent us. And we ask you, Lord, to bless those in harm's way and bless our police officers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, let allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, God, one and indivisible.
This time is roll call and finding a quorum. Ms. Guerrero,
Thank you. Mayor Villarreal.
present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
Here.
Commissioner Salinas is absent. Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
You have the floor.
Thank you. We have next business of ordinances, letter A, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2016-8, City of Rio Grande City Municipal Budget for fiscal year 2016-2017.
Mayor and
Yes.
Commissioners, in your package, you have some changes that occurred from the first reading. Most of them were to clarify on benefits, the percentages, since we just went through enrollment. We just got the new retirement rate that will be occurring in January. We also cleaned up some salaries of some of the temporary employees that were no longer in place, so that kind of tightened the budget in salaries in some of the departments. And you have the list there. We also included some of the debt that we incurred, and that was with the digital meters. We also added some recently awarded grants that we received through the police department. And if you notice on some of the, like on the sanitation department, on the second sheet, we added more real numbers as they pertain to expenditures related to the sanitation department trucks. Until yesterday, I know we had also some departments that came forward on planning due to the annexation plan that we are looking at. So we added monies into the contracted services, and this is the new sheet as the changes with the planning occurred. So you can see how it affects on our savings. We're looking at a savings of $289,654. Already allocating those expenses that I mentioned. And you can see how it affects on our budget, on our fund summary, on the general fund, on the fund balance of $2,187,000. This is the estimated at the end of the next fiscal year, 9/30/2017. There was a question by some whether there was monies for raises or at least something to compensate the employees. We do have an estimated of 155 would include some of the employees that were made full-time. We had a part-time janitor. She's now become full-time. So if you are allotting it 500, it would come out to 77,500. With the benefits, you're looking at 86,800. That would come out of this 289,000 that's on the bottom of that first sheet. That is something that I did not put into the budget, but it is up to this council if you wanted to go ahead and do that. Other than that, it is a balanced budget, as you can see. The revenue sources were again refined, as you'll notice on the sheet of paper with the examples. What we did, we went back to the latest expenditure and revenue report, looked at the real numbers more accurately up to August 31st, and that's what we went ahead and projected and adjusted.
What was the final increase on the salaries from the employees, the raise?
This budget does not include a raise for anyone, sir. This is something that if you do propose, it would come out to that tune.
289.
Yes. It is not a percentage, it is a set amount. Yes.
I know the workshop, and I thought we had agreed to an amount. That's why I'm asking if those included in the proposal.
No, sir. Not an amount. It was either, I remember we discussed at the workshop at 2%,
Right.
but that was not included in
Or a
here.
set amount. We had talked about a set amount for everybody across the board.
Yeah. We had talked about a 500 or 1,000.
Right.
If you do go with the 1,000, of course, that you're looking at about 155,000. And they would come out of the 289.
But what is feasible for us to do at this point is best, considering the budget, and reasonably do?
The amount of money that you see here on the bottom of the 289, that is mostly accountable for the increase in transfer from the public utility. We are looking at an increase from 500 to 700,000 from the public utility. If you do not want to include those, then obviously it would not be feasible. At this moment, it is feasible under this amount. It would impact the budget for next year. At one point, we need to start weaning off on taking out transfers from the utility. They will be having some big projects coming up. We have the USDA project sewer to the Alvarez Road. We have the elevated storage tank, and also the lift stations that we're going out for bids within the next couple of months.
Elisa, and how are we doing with the labor force as far as public utilities and public work?
The public utilities budget does count.
No, I'm not talking about their budget. I'm talking about, do we have enough people there to work, or do we need some more help in that?
And that's what I was going to say. The budget that's in here accounts for an additional 3-man crew. We need to continue working on some major leaks of old pipes that remained. We also have a growing population that connections are being held back because we have the crews working on a leak. I know last night they were called out to the Miriam Bell Park. There was a leak out there. So right now we only have 6 guys as a crew for the whole town, and it's not meeting the needs. So this budget has for an additional 3-man crew.
But the crew that was being utilized to read the meters, and now that we got the digital meters, what are they doing now?
They're catching up, sir. We have a lot of the projects that were not done. I know that the foreman and we kind of listed projects of old water lines, the one to Los Velas, the one on Old 83. These are old lines that constantly have leaks, and they are also contribute to our water loss, but they were unable to go back to them because they were meter reading, and then they would have to go and catch up to connect people that were waiting like a week, 2 weeks, and so they kind of stayed behind. They do have a lot of work. They need to start working on identifying all their manhole covers, lining them in concrete. They need to identify the valves, also lining them with concrete. They also need to start working on the old water treatment plant. So there's a lot of work at the public utility. The 3-man additional crew would be able to put the more experienced crew into working at the old treatment plant to get it into a better running operating system.
And considering the annexation at this point, of course, we're going to need some additional staff. that's gonna be, what, a year from now, or are we looking at sooner than that as well?
The additional or the annexation?
Well, the additional staff for the annexation.
The annexation, because it is an involuntary annexation, moving forward after the public hearings occur, it's 3 years effective. Within those 3 years, we work on the service plan and how we're going to implement the services in the new areas.
So at this point, then, we don't need to necessarily consider additional staff at this point until we move forward on that annexation plan then.
Correct,
Which
and
would not
usually,
impact the budget at this point.
not this budget, sir,
Okay.
not for the annexation. Yeah. I know that usually in an annexation plan, the very first services that are requested is fire, police, and animal control. That's the first one.
Okay. So then at this point, it's the question is about should we include the raise in this budget? Is that the main question we have at this point?
Yeah, at this point, it would be to adopt the budget with the changes proposed, including the raise if the sole council desires.
Okay. What's the rate?
Yeah.
So at this point would be a $500 raise, or at this point would be considering a stipend at this point, or the raise, let's say 500, or but again, going feasible, because we're looking at 500, so that's about 75 grand, plus the additional fees, you're looking at about 80, 90,
86, 8. And
With all
of
the
course,
other
and like I say, this will continue to impact future budgets.
future budgets, right?
Yes, this
I know we have
will,
not given a raise in quite a while, a couple of years. I know we've given additional,
3-4 years.
incentives or
we have,
bonuses, but, at this point, I would like to see some kind of raise to employees.
we've tried to be efficient in some of the workloads. I know some of our departments carry 2-3 hats, and we've compensated them through a stipend. We have, like from the boys and girls, from the sanitation, and we save from not having to hire a full-time director in those areas. So that kind of helped us to save some money. We're
At
all
this time, we need to evaluate how we're doing the compensation plan.
Actually-
So
my
that we need
understanding
to
there
include this year.
was that we were gonna look into trying to get like some type of scale or something on the year's experience. And we were gonna be able to evaluate the employees on the raises on that side. And I know it's something that's being in the works that the ladies are
Actually, it
working
is.
on. But, I think that, that would be, coming into effect for us to be looking at for next year's budget. But,
But that would be for next year's, right now it's this year,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yes, sir. I do know that our personnel director and also Valerie and Lisa have been working with Commissioner Salinas and looking at the different pay scales. We more than likely will have to contract with a consultant to finally set it up together. And then, of course, it comes through the council to get it approved and then put into implementation with the staff. At that point, then knowing what staff is going to be coming up to the scale, then you can probably apply and budget that amount for the salary increases. Once it gets to the level, that's the level it'll get to. There's no more.
And you already have a consultant for that, or do we have somebody that's?
We're looking at the consultant that
Okay.
was assisting with the school district.
Okay. All right, so then what's the motion then at this point?
I think you need a record vote also, sir.
Okay.
But the motion would be to adopt the budget with the changes
And the
and,
additional,
yes.
all right?
It's the employee that will be transferred.
But for now, we
Maybe
look
there's-
at the budget for this year.
Yes.
Looking at, what's the amount, 500 across the board, and then with the compensation for next year's budget, for you all.
I think we need to be good on pushing there in case we need to increase our manpower at either Public Works or at
We're gonna have 3 positions in the budget.
Yeah, but that's for utility department.
So
We don't have, we didn't get anybody for public works, did we? No positions were open.
In Public Works, we identified actually 3 positions that are vacant that have not been filled. And they are budgeted. I know that-
No additional.
No, we did not put any additional, sir.
Okay, so suffice it to say then, Ms. Beth, as far as, it's feasible to say, let's say $500 at this point with, which again, mentioned 85 leaves as a cushion, but at the same time, we're looking at the compensation plan for next year's budget, that way adjusted equally at that point.
Yes, sir.
that's fine.
All right, make some motion.
I shall move.
Okay, we have a motion as described the budget as with the additional changes and the $500 raise. Is that,
That's the motion.
All
Yes,
right.
that's correct.
all right, we have a motion, we have a second, further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
You-
Motion carries.
You do need a record vote.
Oh, my mistake, go ahead.
Mayor Villarreal,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
motion
Oh,
carries.
yes.
Thank you. Next, business and order is item 2B, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2016-9, levying and ad valorem taxes for maintenance and operations and for debt service of the municipal government of the city of Rio Grande City, Texas, for tax year ending December 31st, 2016. Yes?
Mayor and Commissioners, this is the second reading. No changes have been done from the prior first reading. It is going down from the .51 to .49. And this will fund our budget that just got approved. The motion has to read specifically as on the cover sheet. We did not adopt the effective tax rate, but went ahead and adopted the rollback rate.
And this is the second reading, so we have a motion.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.497579, which is effectively a 1.59% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
Okay, this time there's a record vote. Vote
Thank you. Mayor Villarreal,
in favor.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Next, business and orders, item 3A, resolutions, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2016-20, authorizing the purchase and financing of 2017 Rhino 268 dump truck for the Public Utility Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. We're asking to buy a dump truck and recommend it to be approved. It's, the cost would be $80,376.98, and we paying a $25,000 down payment and be financed for 2 years at a rate of 2.33.
You have 2 proposals there from Kansas State Bank. It's our recommendations to go with them. We did get proposals from Holt for the backhoe, but their interest rate was a little higher. So we were able to come in with the 2.7 for the Caterpillar and a 2.3 rate for the Hino dump truck. And you should have both proposals in front of you, if you
I see
found
the
them.
Kansas State Bank.
I didn't include the second one since we
The,
I gave you,
resolution was on.
no, I gave it to you. For the 2 Kansas State banks? There were
no,
two
for the
Kansas-
truck only, Vanessa, for the truck only.
Okay, but,
It's the dump truck is what we're doing.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, we're on the dump truck, I apologize. So we're on the Hino dump truck, and it is at a 2.33% with a $25,000 down payment.
Okay.
And of course, if they choose to pay it off early, there is not a prepayment penalty, so that is a good thing.
And-
And
If you might explain, Mr. Klein, the reasons why, you're in need. I know you've been asking for this dump truck for the past 2 years.
Yeah, we don't have a dump truck. The old dump truck was auctioned maybe about 3 years ago. It was very, it had put a lot of repairs in it. So it wasn't worth putting in more repairs. So
And
we
the dump truck is used to carry when you're on the
fixing
leaks?
fixing leaks and bringing collision to the side and everything.
We get the best price on the truck. Do we look for a buy board vendor or do we go?
It's a buy board.
Lowe's?
Yes, buy board. Both are buy board.
Now, motion?
A motion to approve, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is item 3B, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2016-21, authorizing the purchase and financing of 420F Caterpillar backhoe for the public utility departments.
Yes, sir. This is a backhoe we need because the other backhoe we got there is 2000 and we put in also a lot of repairs. So we're trying to eliminate all the repairs we put on that. It's pretty costly, so we decided to go with the brand new one. And the cost is be $87,708.31 cents. Down payment be $25,000. Interest rate be 2.72. And it'd be also $25,000 down. It'll be financed for 2 years also.
Is there a reason why this one's 2.7% versus the other one's 2.3?
this was the best they could do for us. I did ask her. We are almost maxed out with Kansas State Bank. Apologize, I'm a little sick. This was the best interest rate they could provide. Holt, I believe, came in at a 3. I have it right here. Holt was a little higher, and we did have other lenders that we were looking at, but we didn't want to tie up funds with them because I know police department in the future is looking at purchasing some cars. So this was the best rate they could do for us at the
I
time.
was comparing it to the dump truck.
Yes, and next year we are paying off.
Okay.
I believe for the next 4 years we will be paying off its public works. So maybe we'd like to refinance next year. Once we pay off, I believe it's in January when we'll pay off one of the public works units. We have the option to refinance. Hopefully they can give us a better rate. Again, if cash flow is good, we could always pay it off early. There is not a prepayment penalty if we choose to go that route. But the rate, I know the rate is a little higher. This was submitted last week, I believe, to them, and that was the best rate they could give us.
Okay. Have a motion? Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve. Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Fine.
Can I be dismissed, sir?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. At this time, if no one objects, I'd like to move to item 7, executive session, chapter 551, Texas Government Code, section 551.071, consultation with attorney, section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations, and section 551.72, deliberations regarding real property. No objection? All right. We go into executive session. It is 6:30 p.m. This time we're back from executive session. It is 8:07 p.m. And for executive session, have letter A, discussion and possible action, consultation with attorney regarding case number 0415 0072 9 CVDC 15604 BF Highway Services of Texas, LP and Allied Waste Services of Rio Grande Valley versus City of Rio Grande City, Texas, and its elected officials in their official capacity. We have a motion.
A motion to proceed with the approved, with the appeal, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion to proceed with the appeal. We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next is letter B and C. There were no action at this time on letter B. And letter C, possibly number 2015-3 and DC 15631. This time, if there's no objection, we'll go back to item 4, contracts and agreements. No objection, we'll go back to item 4A, discussion and possible action to approve the contract with TIF Services of South Texas for the establishment of a tax increment reinvestment zone. Ms. Beas?
Mayor and Commissioners, at the last meeting on September the 12th, you all selected TIF Services of South Texas to start developing our tax agreement and reinvestment zones. From there, we have received his proposal. It is for $48,141, and staff recommends approval, sir.
All right. We have a motion at this time. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Next is item B, discussion and possible action to renew the professional services agreement with Hollis, Rutledge and Associates. Letter B.
Mayor and Commissioners, we've got Mr. Hollis Rutledge present. Hollis? Oh, you're asleep.
I think I'm listening.
La bola. Anyway, I brought an updated version on the report of what we've been doing. Some of them we're repeating. We're doing another Parks and Recreation grant. We're pending on a Department of Justice grant for some police officers. We're working with the library on the E-rate grant, and we of course have some successes there relative to this past year and some monies that we were able to obtain. We are also working with continuing to work with the Water Development Board relative to your famous water tower. We're hoping that will take place sooner than later. And I must admit that the chairman of the Texas Water Development Board is anxiously awaiting to help out the situation, because he was here, he saw it. So every time I run into him in Austin, he tells me it's still standing, and I said, yeah, it is. But anyway, but no, he's very supportive, and he was here a little over a year ago, visiting with Mr. Klein and Elisa, and but he was the commission at that time. Now he's the chairman of the commission, so he's very supportive, and he wanted to tell you all that he's going to be coming down soon, so maybe you all get to meet him. He's a really nice, super guy. And then, of course, as you know, from time to time, I'm called upon by the city to mitigate issues relative to state or federal agencies. I'm not going to get into the details. Some of you know what it is. But anyway, that's my report. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than free to answer them for you.
Well, Hollis recently assisted us in getting our USD application for sewer service of $4 million.
Oh, that's right. That's the other one, yeah.
He went ahead and talked to Paco Valentin.
Paco Valentin.
And we were able to speed it up so we could meet the deadline, the federal deadline. So that helped us a lot.
And I've seen this man in action, so yes, sir, you did a tremendous job.
I won't.
Yeah.
That's above on my pay grade. That's for you all to consult. So I'm not going to go there. But you all know. That's what matters.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Well, we have a motion. We have a motion to renew. We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is letter 4C.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
We'll see you
Appreciate
over
it.
there. I got
It's always great to see you in action, sir.
Yeah, anytime.
Be careful.
Good work, sir.
Bye.
4C, discussion and possible action to lease the Bessems Landing building and a portion of the parking area to Valley Metro.
Mayor and Commissioners, we have been in discussion with Valley Metro. They are interested, but at this point, we do not need any action since they have not been able to review it and bring back a response to us.
Okay, so they haven't at this point, but no action. So So at this point,
No
there's no
action,
action? Yeah, no action. Item 4C, I know it'll come back, I guess, once they review it and so on. 4D, discussion and possible action to review for renewal the lease agreement with Andrea Adame, Real Body Balance for premises located at 405 East Mirasol Street, Suite B and C, Lopez Tijereña Complex.
Mayor,
There.
Commissioner, on the memo, you can see that this business is never open. They are delinquent in their payments to the city. Ms. Holly has made various attempts to communicate with them, and they don't even answer the phone, much less return any calls. Staff recommends not to renew the lease. Their lease is up on November 15th. Therefore, we'll be giving them a notice if the council votes on not renewing.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to not renew. Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next business and order is item 5A, discussion and possible action to grant preliminary and final approval to the plat of the Gran Cielo addition.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is a multi-family development, the corner of Charco Blanco and Eisenhower, what used to be Royal Garden subdivision. Well, they added some acreage and therefore had to be re-subdivided, what is now Gran Cielo Addition subdivision. There was some minor technical comments on the plat itself, which have been addressed by the development engineers. We have Mr. Mark Temple in the audience to answer any questions you gentlemen may have.
This meeting, it did go through planning and zoning, as I see here, and it was approved.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, this is a development similar to the Esperanzas del Rio, and there are 80 units, and they even have a swimming pool. So, much looking forward to that kind of development to offer to our citizens.
Would you like to share a little bit about this development, sir? 80 units with a swimming pool, anything?
Mayor, Commissioners, the 80-unit family complex, two-story complex. This has been in the works for quite some time now on the tax credit program. We've been working on it. Amenities will basically, there will be a swimming pool, playground, community center. It'll be perimeter fencing on the complex. We anticipate breaking ground once we have building permits, and anywhere from 8 months to a year construction period on that. We feel very confident, very good. The one thing that I'd really like to express our appreciation to Alicia, to Gilbert, the staff. They've gone beyond the call of duty in helping us get this off and going. We greatly appreciate all their work. So, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, do we have a motion? Okay,
This is preliminary and final.
Okay, yeah, preliminary and final.
Okay, we have a motion to grant preliminary and final approval. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item B, discussion and possible action on request by Carlos Aguilar for preliminary approval of the Gonzalez subdivision.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioner, this is a one-lot subdivision on the corner of Ebony and Forward Street in the Steveños area. It's it used to be an irregular lot sold by the Trevino family. They're selling basically their, porción inheritance parts that they had in that particular area, and they're being able to sell because, again, that's what they were granted, and now at time of development they had to subdivide. Mr. Gonzalez, he wants to build a warehouse for him, and again, it's just following the model subdivision rules.
Okay. And it was approved also by planning and zoning
Yes.
already?
It's a commercial track?
Yes and no. Yes, because it's a warehouse, but no, it's not gonna be a, full-blown store or anything. It's where it's personal use.
Oh, personal.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second, yes, we have a second. That's for preliminary approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next,
One more question on that one. Where exactly is it on Ebony?
It's a corner, it's a turnaround between where Ebony and Fort Worth at the,
The last street.
yes, the very last street. It's a Palma Street and Pancho Villa Main Market, just south of that. Where the street ends.
next we have item C, discussion and possible action on request by Meldon and Hunt for preliminary approval of the North Gate Phase 2 subdivision.
Mayor Commissioners, this particular subdivision, North Gate, along Santex Road, it has been approved in the past, but it's here due to the fact that it was in the year 2014. So it's basically reintroduced for subdivision.
Taking a while, is that?
Yes,
All right.
correct.
And it was approved by planning and zoning.
Yes.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, we have a motion. Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next is item D, discussion and possible action on parking variance request by Roy Gonzalez for property located at 1002 North Abasolo Street.
This, Mayor, this is it used to be a home along Abasolo Street in Monroe. It's a corner lot. The gentleman, Mr. Gonzalez, he's in the medical supplies business. He wants to turn it into his office. This is not a retail store. This is for his office. Basically, they are distributors. So therefore, there's not a in and out single customer going into this place. But per commercial requirements, he needs to add 12 parking spaces to fulfill the off-street parking ordinance. However, based on the space he's got in that corner, he can only accommodate 7.
The parking is inside the property?
Correct.
So that's, like Ms. Bea said, it's inside the property that we're looking at.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes.
No, He's gonna go in park. The type of business, like Mr. Milan mentioned, people don't go in there and start shopping.
Yes.
They're actually distributed through the home health.
And the property has been in the market for a while. Obviously, people see Abasolo and Flores as potential,
The business corridor.
place, yes, corridor.
But one other question here says is requesting approval for off-street parking.
Off-street parking variance, because that's the name of the ordinance, the off-street parking, and it's all gonna be inside, but we had to word it
To be
like.
clear, it's inside the
Yeah.
property, in other words. it's
Yes,
not-
inside the property is gonna be at least 7 spaces available.
Okay. All right. We have a motion? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye opposed? Carries. All right. Next is item 5E, discussion and possible action on setback variance request by Lynette Gatsa for property located at 247 Huizachi Street.
Mayor Commissioners, this is on the corner of Olel South and Huizache Street. It's a single-family home. This is right across the Alvarez Community Center, there in Los Treviños also. The lady, they started working on an addition to the home. It apparently is a kitchen and living room. We passed by on a Friday afternoon, we put a stop work order, but the setbacks as shown in the pictures, they're too close to property line. Planning and zoning, well, originally they had requested, they're away from the property line 2 feet. So, because it's the front setback, it has to be at least 20. Due to the proximity of the existing home, the planning and zoning decided to give him not the 2 feet that they are willing to allow, but they're only authorizing 5 feet variance. So they had to move it a little bit, at least 3 or 4 feet more inside
Okay,
the
planning
property.
and zoning,
Correct.
that's what their condition was.
That's what they approved. Yes.
Approve, these 5 feet to be left of front setback on the addition,
Correct.
as per stated here, okay. The east side setback, over 5 feet, that's okay.
Is this a
Is the
corner?
one right in front of Alvarez building there?
Yes. It used to be a game room, or I don't know what used to be there, but now there's a family living in there.
Planning-
Additional approval of the planning and zoning.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, it's in the condition set by planning and zoning, we have a second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next is item 5F, discussion and possible action on request for wine and beer retailers off-premise license by Juanita Salinas for business located at 1444 North Fairground Road.
This is an existing license. Actually, there is a current license at this location. However, the business has been transferred. This is by De La Cruz Street in Fairgrounds. Again, that particular location has been licensed for a while. Transfer of ownership, that's what has triggered the action of the planning and zoning and the city to reissue the license.
Under the sheriff, in front of the sheriff's home.
Correct.
That's a moment.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, any further discussion? The only discussion I have here is based on the measurement information. I know it says we're located within 300 feet of a church or public hospital, that was a yes, and then 300 feet of any private or public school, of course that was a no. But, so it's been existing.
Yes,
for some time.
there the Iglesia Manuel, I believe, is right next door. But again, they've coexisted for God only knows when.
All right, so we have a motion to approve, we have a second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next, business and orders, item 6A, discussion and possible action to authorize the establishment of a three-way stop at Charco Blanco and Canales Street and Charco Blanco and Houston Street.
Yes, Mayor, Commission, we've been having several complaints about the speeders in that roadway. It's a long roadway that goes all the way from Highway 83 to Eisenhower. And I think with the growth in that area, we're having to see more traffic take that roadway. And we have tried the speed trailers in that area several times. We have enforced it also with our patrols and citations, but the distance is great. I think that if we would be able to set up a couple of stop signs within that street, it'd slow the traffic down. Because we can't be there all the time. And it's a three-way stop in Charco Blanco and Canales, and another one in Houston would break up that area a little bit and slow down traffic. Myself and Public Works Director, Mr. Guerra, we went by there and looked at the areas that we thought that would qualify for that, the stop signs, and those two areas would be good. They're both lighted, so you wouldn't need a lighted stop sign, and they're visible within that area. And I think that would be a lot more effective. Same way as Fairground and Canales was also made a four-way stop. It'd be the same concept within this area.
Yeah.
How are we going to take all the contractions that you take?
We're gonna put our rumble sticks, stop bars, and make it active. We'll let you know the latest date for the active date. I'm gonna put in warning signs at least a month and a half for them to start realizing that we're gonna have a three-way stop. Put in a newspaper and shall City Channel, and all those things, Mayor. We're gonna take all the safety we have to.
So,
Houston is the one in front of the store, right?
Yes.
So
J.
it's
Lau-
what about four or five blocks from each other?
Yes, sir.
Well,
and just so you
That should
know,
be-
yeah, that the stop sign is on Charco Blanco. So that's gonna
Yeah.
take a little bit of getting used to it because people do drive very fast down that road, so.
Yeah, what we're doing there
Stop there.
was a very long stretch. We're trying to divide the street, more or less for it to be equally.
Well, I
let
don't
it
think
slow 'em
they had
down.
any stop signs between
No.
Highway 83 and Eisenhower, did they?
No.
Yeah, okay. That's a good idea.
We have a motion. Okay, we have a motion to authorize the establishment three-way stops on both Charco Blanco and Canales Street and Charco Blanco and Houston Street. Have a second?
Second.
Okay. This time, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next is item 6B, discussion and possible action to issue a request for qualifications for professional engineering services as regards the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration Award, ID 0879050074, Los Olmos Drainage Project.
Mayor and Commissioner, this is pertaining to the EDA grant that we received. We were planning on using existing plans, but they are preliminary, not subject for construction, so we need to move forward to have them plans and specs developed. This is the first process in getting an engineer on board.
All right, do we have a motion? Okay, we have a motion. A second. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and we're done with executive session, so at this time, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. It is 8:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.